Hello, CUSEC friends. We're back at it again. Hope all of you had an amazing day so far here at CUSEC 2021 with us. I sure did, but the day's not over yet. Right now, we have Alex from RBC, who is here to present a workshop on web development technologies, including Angular, RxJs, and he's here to give us an introduction, and they're here to give us an introduction on RxJs. RBC is our partner sponsor, so we are very, very thankful for RBC. Take it away.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you so much. So yes, today I'm going to do this presentation about RxJs. Let me just share my screen. It will be easier then. Okay. This is the rabbit hole. Beautiful. So thank you for being here. Thank you to be at my talk. Today we are going to see that together. It's an introduction to RxJs, and I subtitled it A Love Story or Une Histoire d'amour. So if I have French speakers in the chat room, I'll be happy to answer your question in French afterwards. The reason I put these subtitles, I hope it will be clear at the end of the presentation. But mostly it's because I love to think of my presentation as little movies, right? So today I was like quite stressed out because I was like, how can I have enough time to explain all that there is to say and also make it understandable, like for it only half an hour. So I'm going to try to define some complicated concepts, but don't worry, I'll try to break it down as much as possible. I even made like a web app to explain precisely some particular technical stuff. And luckily, at the end of the demo, I will have passed to you some of the knowledge and sheer love I have for the toolset and that I have gathered along the years. So let's start the presentation then. And first of all, we have to begin with the main star of the presentation. So me, Alex Catus, I'm a developer at RBC. I like to say that I'm full stack, and I'm a Pig TV aficionado, and I love observables. And at my side, you'll find RxJs. It is used at RBC. Netflix work on its library, and it provides observable. So as you can see, we were made for each other. We also have some featuring guests to this presentation. Angular will be the JavaScript framework. VS Code will be the IDE. Firebase, the backend. And an honorable mention for Flickr.js that provide me to some like mock data that were believable. So let's dive in then. What is RxJs? That's the first part, as you can see. So what is RxJs? RxJs is an implementation in JavaScript of ReactiveX. So that means that ReactiveX has other implementation in Java, C#, C++, Python, Scala, you name it. But that leads to a second question. What is ReactiveX? ReactiveX is an implementation of the principle behind reactive programming. What is reactive programming, then you may ask? Reactive programming is basically programming with an asynchronous data stream. I just threw at you tons of definitions and you may struggle right now, but I guess the most important question is why reactive programming? And I hope this will make everything clearer. So the goal behind reactive programming was to build reactive systems. So that means that when you use reactive programming, you are not building reactive system, but it definitely helps you to do so. And behind a reactive system, there are like 4 major principles, but I'm only going to explain 2 of them today. And those principles are for a system to be responsive and resilient. What does that mean? So responsive is a term that you may see a lot in web development. And usually we use it for UI and UX, like a responsive website is a website that you can access both from your phone or your tablet or even for your computer. So basically, no matter what the client will use, he will be able to use your website, right? In programming, like in a system, responsiveness is exactly that. So no matter what is thrown at you, your system will be usable. And resilient is the second main word here. And it's a word that you may have heard in context more linked to psychology. So when we say that someone is resilient, it's because they were able to do the best with what they had from life. They were able to go through hardships and go from them like better or stronger. And for a system to be resilient, it basically means that it won't break because there was an error that was thrown. So those two concepts, responsiveness and resiliency, the main thing between them, like behind them, is that it's about change, really. It's about how you respond to change and how you react to change. And so the reason those systems were built on was because, like, during the history of internet, there was like this massive growth that happened. And so we have to build systems that can really handle all the people that want to access them. And it's like an ever-growing number, basically. And the way we handle change in reactive programming, like the philosophy behind it, is that you see change as an asynchronous data stream. That means that change will happen, we know it will happen, and we'll see it as a continuous stream. And it may sound like philosophical or trivial, but really it requires like a certain shift of mindset when you were doing functional programming. And so everything is a function. And so when you have to begin to see stuff as a flow, that can be a shift in your mindset that can be really hard to attain. And that may, that's one of the things that make reactive programming hard when you begin it from another background. So let's go into more technical stuff now. And I'm going to show you what it means to handle an asynchronous data stream. So what is asynchronous programming? It's waiting for something to happen before doing something else. Basically, the art of events handling. Like, for example, if you want to order a pizza, you're not going to eat it before it arrives, right? Because if you do so, you're going to end up eating your own hands, and nobody wants to do that. So you have to wait for the pizza guy to arrive to your place and then pay the pizza, leave a tip, and eat your pizza, right? So if we're looking at a web, like, or programming stuff, like what it would look like is that you have a component. This component asks for an information, and the provider may take some time to provide it, and then your component will get the information. That's a familiar pattern, right? And you know what? I'm going to show it to you right away with the app that I demonstrated, because a picture means 1,000 words, but an app means 1,000 pictures. So on the left, I have my database. And on the right, I have the app, right? So this is the lexical database that I'm using right now, and the app is pretty simple. Like here, I have some code. When I click on this, I'm going to trigger the code. And those are basically to add more Lego cards and remove them. So I'm going to load them, and it will look like what I just showed you in the PowerPoint. So when I click, I get to see the card that I just created. I can add more, and I won't see them until I click on load again. And then I can see everything, right? And if I erase them all, I have to click on load again. So I get to see the empty list. So everything is familiar, right? This is how we use promises. And that's like maybe the thing you're most used to do. Now, let's try to do it a little bit differently using RxJs. So RxJs has something called an observable, and it's basically changing the whole flow. Like, instead of having this, you'll still have it, but it's like encapsulated in one major flow. And here I was able to translate it by changing the button by a slider, because you're not like dispatching one action, you're actually changing the state of the observable. As you can see here, there is a $sign. Observables are not expensive. That's not what it meant. It's actually called the finish notation, and it means that this is not a common variable. It's actually an observable of that variable. So I'm going to click on that button and let the magic happen. When I'm going to click on that, you can see that basically it's a reflection of what's happening to the database, because like the change are going through the data stream. So I can rename this one to be Peter, for example. Or you know what, even better, Andrew. I don't know if you've seen his demonstration earlier, but yeah. So if I flush it, everything will stop. Another thing with observables is like with promises, right? When you not dispatch, but when you throw a promises away, you cannot stop it. Here with observable, you have absolute control over the flow. So here I have subscribed. So that means that I'm listening to what's going through the observable. If I decide to unsubscribe, I won't be seeing the change that I have in the database anymore. So that's fun. And observables then. Here I've seen you an observables from the database, but they can be created from anything. You can basically monitor anything that happens on your website, and it can be, for example, a DOM event. You can have an observable that will observe the click or the right click or the left click anyway. You can even monitor a key event on your app. You can create an observable like from a timer, so it will emit every interval that you specified. And also the observables can complete. Even if you're subscribing to it, you can actually have a certain value that will be the last one, and then it won't emit anymore. And so the thing about observables, I don't know if you have seen it from a demonstration yet, but it allows, it can be handled like as a collection of events. That's the main thing behind the observable, is because there is a stream of events, and all those events together, you can actually manipulate them as a collection. So a collection of events. So I guess like when we do programmation, we do love a good collection because we know how to handle them. Most of the data we handle are into some kind of a collection, so we have our favorite, and we can do tons of stuff with them. We can use them, like we can sort them, we can filter them, we can map them, and we can also merge them. And so all of that things, we can do them with an observable. What? Yes, we can actually have those events and interact with them as we would do with a list. Behold with me, I have an example. That's the second part of the demo app. Look at those beauties. So here I have, I'm not connected to a database anymore. Are you still seeing my screen? I just want to be sure. Yeah. So here what's happening is that you have your first observable here, but instead of listening the database, it's listening to those clicks. And if I subscribe, what will happen is that I'll be listening to the buttons. Like I'm clicking on the blue, it gets a blue dot. I'm clicking on the red, it's doing a red dot, right? And so the same thing for the second color, but with green and yellow. And finally here, I have this little thing called an operator, and I'll show you exactly what it means. So in the previous drawing here, I put something here called a pipe. And a pipe is exactly what you have in mind. You remember when we play at Mario and there are like green paths everywhere and you can come from one and go out of it? That's the same thing, ish. So here we have a pipe. And so what it will do is, like when you subscribe to it, if you click on the button, it will basically like be the same one, like first color observable, pipe, and nothing will happen. Like it will basically reflect the first observable. But we can do so much more. And that's when operators come in. And that's like the true, that's the core of RxJs, really. Operators, like map, it allows you to handle each different event on a specific way. So map operators here, I'm going to translate that for you. You're saying that basically everything that's coming through this should become purple. Let's try it. Oh my God, it's working. Actually, at least I guess it's working because for me this is purple, but like maybe it's more pink on your screen. Anyway, so that's exciting. Another one, delay, because as you remember, it's a data stream through time. So we can, for example, delay each of them from 1 second. And now when I'm gonna click, it will take 1 second to reflect. Let's try another one. Take. I told you earlier that the observables could complete, right? So here, I'm going to subscribe to both of them. And actually what will happen is that it will take one and then complete. So it won't be listening, it won't be anything else really after the one. And I could pass any specific number of event that I would want to take here. We also have a filter, so that's familiar, right? That's typically something that we do with the list. And here I'm filtering and I'm saying no to everything that is red. So when I click on red, nothing goes through. Only the blue goes through. Another one. So this time until change. It's pretty much self-explanatory. What will happen is that it will only accept things that are different from the previous one that was emitted. You can also go and basically merge two strings. So here, as you can see, the code is now merge first color and second color. And what will happen is that when we click, every single one will pass through. And there was also the switch map. I love a switch map. It can be a quite difficult to grasp concept, but hear me out. What switch map do is that when you click on one observable, it actually go through, like subscribe to the second one. So here, if I click on this, nothing will happen. But if I click on this, it will actually begin to listen to this one. And finally, because that's the real strength behind it, you can choose to combine all those operators. So that's what I did just for the fun. You know, I have fun in a lot of really weird ways, but still. So I just did all of them together, and something will go through no matter what. And everything is pink, but it's also filtered and distinct. And anyway, so this is some of a demonstration on what you could achieve using RxJs operators. And for me, the best part about them is that you can achieve pretty much everything that I just showed you with promises and other kind of programming. But here, hear me out, it's pretty simple to read, right? It's only one line of code. And those things could actually be much, much more complicated to write on other contexts. Here, it's like really a one-line story. And when it comes to testing, it's really important because testing is crucial when we build web app. We write tons of tests. And when we have to write tests for things that especially are synchronous, it can be like really difficult to even understand what your test is doing. And we don't want that, right? But if I had to write a test for this, it can be quite, not like sample. I don't want to say sample, but like, look at this. If I want to test this, I would have to try to describe what's going on, right? And the way I would describe it is that my first observable, don't worry about the code, it's okay. I'm going to pass through either blue colors, or let's say red color, right? And I want to pass like one blue color, one red, one blue, one red, one blue, one red. So here I was able to describe an asynchronous behavior in one line, right? And let's say I want to test my last one. I'll just have to put it a little bit more here. I want to test this one. So I can just copy paste this code. You know what? No, I'm going to put it on the mapping where everything went to purple. I can just copy paste this code here. And I'm going to expect that everything that comes from the first one became like purple, basically. And so the way I would describe it would be like defining that the value, for example, C is colors purple. And you can just copy paste the line of event. And instead of having A and B, it's just going to be C here. And that's my test. I was able to test something that's asynchronous in really like 4 lines of code. And that's pretty cool, if I may say. So basically, describing observables is easy-ish. It can be complicated, but like once you really grasp the concept, it's really a lifesaver and a code line saver also. As a conclusion, because yeah, I went through pretty much all my demonstration. As a conclusion, I just want to tell you a little story, because when I was saying, what I was saying at the beginning of the talk was that it was a love story, right? And so I have a story about that. When I was finishing my computer science degree, we had this huge like end of the session work. Like it was one of the last parts of the semester, and we had to build a web app. And at this point, I really didn't like to work with a web app at all. I have built a website with PHP and even Java, and I really didn't like it at all. I find it like quite boring, and I wasn't like, I did not like it. And for this last course, our teacher told us that we had to try. And what happened was that we decided to go with my team and to pick Angular. But in the end, it ended up being like one of the worst teamwork that I have ever been a part with. You know, the teamwork where you have to be the one who does everything. That was it, but like 100 times worse. And so I basically had to build the whole app by myself, and I understand nothing. It was like really, really complicated. But in the end, I was amazed by the tool, and RxJs and Angular brought me comfort in those times of need. I've been working with them ever since, and I had never looked back. So that's it. And thank you for being to my talk. And I guess we still have like maybe 5 minutes for questions.
Wow, thank you so much for your amazing presentation. I learned a lot. And yeah, in French, merci beaucoup pour votre présentation. J'ai appris beaucoup de choses maintenant. Yeah, so we have 5 minutes for questions, so feel free to message your questions in the stage, and I will stage chat, and I will voice them up live. I know there was a question earlier, but another RBC representative kind of answered it. If you would like, we have a few minutes if you would like to elaborate on that question.
Yes, of course. Which question was it?
Okay, so a question from Jesse. They asked, do you need to close a pipe that's taking one? Any possibilities for memory leaks similar to not closing file handles or sockets?
Oh, exactly. So you definitely need to close your subscription. Like, pipe is not the same thing as subscription, right? I just want to be, because it can be blurry, but like, let's be clear. Here, I have a pipe, but I have no subscription, right? And so if I click, nothing will happen. So what you want to do is to close your subscription, because when the subscription is on, that's when like memory leaks can happen, right? And so yes, you definitely want to be handling your subscription. There are tons of ways to do that, to subscribe and unsubscribe when you're using Angular. There's even like a pipe in the HTML that you can use to automatically subscribe and unsubscribe, and don't have to worry about that. But definitely when you subscribe, then there should be an unsubscribe somewhere else.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much once again. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Yes, we definitely learned a lot. I'm sure everyone else here at CUSEC really enjoyed learning about RxJS. Something very, very new.
Like any question? No, I know it was quite dense, but if you have any question, I'm available in the chat, and I'll be able to happy to elaborate. If you want to look at the code, it's available on Git, and you have my LinkedIn, so please ask me any questions, and I'll be happy to answer them.
Wonderful, wonderful. And for CUSEC friends, please don't go anywhere. We have a keynote regarding robotics and AI coming up in 3 minutes. So stay here, keep tuned. We have so much in store for all of you. Thanks again.